Hello everybody, it's me, Mrs. Kokenauer. I've got a great book to share with you today, and I, as you can tell, am getting ready for summer. Summer is almost here. It's my favorite time. I like to wear my cowboy hat in the summer. I like to wear my sunglasses and sit outside and read a book. There's a lot of fun things to do in the summer. I wonder what you like to do. I also like to go on trips, vacations with my family. Some of you might like to do that. Sometimes people have family reunions. That's where a lot of relatives get together and have just a good time hanging out with each other and talking and having a big party. Relatives are people who are related to you. They're part of your family. It could be your grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. And sometimes you might live far away and you can get together in the summertime. That's what this book is about. The title of this book is The Relatives Came. The author is Cynthia Rylant. She's one of my favorites. The illustrator is Stephen Gamble. He won an award for illustrations. Thank you to Scholastic Press for giving us permission to read this book together today. You're going to love it. It's going to make you think about the summer and what you might like to do. The relatives came. Relatives are the people that are related to your family, but maybe don't live in the same house with you. It was in the summer of the year when the relatives came. They came up from Virginia. They left when their grapes were nearly purple enough to pick, but not quite. All right, this is a story that a person wrote about their own experience with their family in the summer. I think it was written by Cynthia when she was a little girl. You could write about a vacation or a trip you've had. Her relatives live in another state, a state called Virginia, so they have to come and drive a long way to visit her and her family. They had an old station wagon that smelled like a real car, and in it they put an ice chest full of soda pop and some boxes of crackers and some bologna sandwiches. And up they came from Virginia. They left at 4 a.m. when it was still dark, before even the birds were awake. I wonder why they had to leave so early in the morning. Let's draw a conclusion. Why do you think they had to leave so early in the morning? Could it be because Cynthia's family lived so far away and it would take a long time to drive there? She's making it sound like Virginia is very far away, that like they live in another state that's not Virginia, so it might take a long time to drive. Soda pop is what we might call soft drinks, soda, Coke, Dr. Pepper, Sprite, that kind of thing is what some people call soda pop. They drove all day long and into the night. And while they traveled along, they looked at the strange houses and different mountains, and they thought about their almost purple grapes back home. They thought about Virginia, but they thought about us too, waiting for them. So they drank up all their pop and ate up all their crackers and traveled up all those miles until finally they pulled into our yard. And maybe this is Cynthia waiting with her brothers for her relatives to come visit. Isn't that exciting when you haven't seen somebody you love in so long and they come to visit? Oh, look how happy they are. Then it was hugging time. Talk about hugging. Those relatives just passed us all around their car, pulling us against their wrinkled Virginia clothes, crying sometimes. They hugged us for hours. Oh, isn't that fun? Look at all of them. The cousins playing together and the grandparents so happy to see the grandkids. That's so fun. Then it was into the house, and so much laughing and shining faces and hugging in the doorways. You'd have to go through at least 4 different hugs to get from the kitchen to the front room. Those relatives. Does that make you think of a time when you got together with your relatives? It makes me think of a time. I remember a family reunion, almost just like that. It was so much fun to be in that house. And everybody was so happy to see you and talk to you. And finally, after a big supper 2 or 3 times around until we all got a turn at the table, there was quiet talk, and we were in 2s and 3s through the house. There's always a lot of food at family reunions, aren't there? I wonder what you like to eat when you get together with your relatives. My relatives were really good cooks, and they always brought a lot of food. The relatives weren't particular about beds, which was good since there weren't any extras. So a few squeezed in with us, and the rest slept on the floor, some with their arms thrown over the closest person, or some with an arm across one person and a leg across another. It was different going to sleep with all that new breathing in the house. It's like having a great big slumber party. Wouldn't that be fun with your grandma and grandpa and your aunts and uncles and cousins? I bet that's Cynthia. She's having a hard time going to sleep with all the breathing in the house. The relatives stayed for weeks and weeks. They helped us tend the garden, and they fixed any broken things they could find. That's fun that they get to stay for a long time. That way they can really tell stories about when they were growing up and really get to know each other really well. The cousins can play together every day. They ate up all our strawberries and melons, then promised we could eat up all their grapes and peaches when we came to Virginia. Look, they're playing musical instruments together. I bet they're singing. They're having watermelon. What a good time they're having. But none of us thought about Virginia much. We were so busy hugging and eating and breathing together. They're having a good summer, aren't they? Finally, after a long time, the relatives loaded up their ice chest and headed back to Virginia at 4 a.m. We stood there in our pajamas and waved them off in the dark. We watched the relatives disappear down the road. Then we crawled back into our beds that felt too big and too quiet. We fell asleep. Why did the bed suddenly feel too big and too quiet? Because the relatives aren't there anymore. You drew a conclusion for me. Thank you. Because the relatives weren't there and they had the bed all to themselves, but I think they missed their relatives. And the relatives drove on all day long and into the night. And while they traveled along, they looked at the strange houses and different mountains, and they thought about their dark purple grapes waiting at home in Virginia. But they thought about us too, missing them, and they missed us. And when they were finally home in Virginia, they crawled into their silent, soft beds and dreamed about the next summer. Maybe next summer, what do you think will happen? Let's make a prediction. Do you think they're going to come back to visit Cynthia's family? Do you think Cynthia's family might come to Virginia and visit them? That would be fun. I wonder what you're going to be doing this summer. I wish I could hear you tell me what plans you have. We always like to talk about it. Does your family go on any road trips? That's what you call it when you go in a car and maybe you take a bunch of snacks like they did and you drive a long way to visit people, your relatives, or to go to a certain place. That's called a road trip. And some of you have told me about trips you take to Mexico or California, even just maybe another city in Texas like Houston. Maybe you're going to go on a road trip this summer. I hope you have a great summer. Thank you for listening to my story. I love you. You're my favorite. I'll see you next time.